Jim, I have been and will be your friend. I plunged into fire. The fire died before brutal cold, and I experienced a terrible numbing, much worse than the flames. Death ripped the spirit from my body. This I remember. My spirit, in the care of Dr. McCoy, felt his terror and confusion and fear of madness. This I remember. The Vulcan elder, Tilar, created the refusion that joined my body and my spirit again. I felt both joy and peace. This, too, I remember. But I have so much else to learn before I am myself again. The Vulcan scholars studying me and helping me regain my memory say that pain and terror and joy have no place in the Vulcan way. Those feelings, any feelings, will only interfere. All this I must forget.
The traveler sang. It sent its songs into space. In return, it received new songs from other beings. Oblivious to distance and to time, it wove a network of communication across the galaxy. When it discovered a newly evolved intelligence to add to its delicate fabric, it rejoiced. On much rarer occasions, it grieved. When the song of one of its entities changed from delight and discovery to distress and confusion, the traveler listened and thought. When the song transmuted into pain and fear, the traveler made its decision, changed its course toward the song's small blue world, and accelerated to a tremendous speed. During its journey toward the blue world's ordinary yellow sun, the troubled music ripped apart into incoherence. Though the traveler sang reassurance, the songs faded. Finally, they died. The traveler hurtled toward the silence, transmuting its music into a dirge. Admiral James T. Kirk had stolen and destroyed the Starship Enterprise. He had sabotaged a Starfleet vessel. He had incited mutiny. More important, he had disobeyed direct orders. His defenders claimed he had good reason for his actions, but so far he had refused to appear in his own defense. At the headquarters of the United Federation of Planets, his court-martial progressed. Emeritus Ambassador Sarek of Vulcan arrived only moments before he was scheduled to testify on Admiral Kirk's behalf. He paused at the entrance of the dark council hall. A harsh glare flashed over the stepped ranks of seats. The counselors murmured. On a screen above the chamber, a violent explosion roiled and rumbled. A thunderous voice filled the room. Commander Krug's heroic crew died by this devious Federation hand. Commander Krug himself was abandoned to perish on the surface of an exploding planet. The image faded. Light radiated from the witness box, illuminating the angry face of Kamarag, the Klingon ambassador. The mission recorder displayed a great starship, the Enterprise. A second explosion filled the screen with the actinic light of warp engines gone critical. The Enterprise struggled against its death, but another explosion racked it. It fell from space into atmosphere. It glowed with the friction of its speed. It burned. It disappeared in ashes and in flames. The Klingon's mission recorder focused on the face of James Kirk. "Ah!" Kamarag shouted. "Hold the image! Hold!" The image froze. James Kirk gazed at his dying ship. "Observe!" Kamarag's brow ridge pulsed with anger. "The quintessential devil, James T. Kirk, renegade and terrorist. He is responsible for the murder of the Klingon crew and the theft of their vessel. But his true aims were more sinister. Behold, The real plot and intentions. One image of James Kirk dissolved into a second. The new image, uniformed, calm, well-groomed, gazed out at the audience. A complex diagram glowed into being. Genesis, Kirk said, is a procedure by which the molecular structure of matter is broken down and reformed. A diagram became a torpedo. The Genesis device arced toward a lifeless world. A tidal wave of fire raced across the rocky surface. Stone and dust became water and air and fertile soil. In this simulation, James Kirk said, a barren rock becomes a world with water, atmosphere, and a functioning ecosystem capable of sustaining most known forms of carbon-based life. Kamarag banished the image with an abrupt gesture. Admiral Kirk himself detonated this dreadful weapon. The chamber's lights rose. This Genesis planet was no more and no less than a secret base from which to annihilate the Klingon people. Kamarag let his outrage build. We demand the extradition of Kirk. We demand justice. The Empire has a unique point of view on justice, Mr. President. Sarek descended the stairs. It is not so many years past that the Empire honored James Kirk as a hero for preventing the annihilation of the Klingon people. One must wonder what political upheaval could have caused such a precipitous change in their opinion. It is Kirk who changed. Kamarag fixed Sarek with an expression of fury. From concealing his treachery to exposing it as Genesis proves. Genesis was perfectly named, Sarek said. Had it succeeded, it would have meant the creation of life, not death. It was the Klingons who drew first blood while trying to possess its secrets. Balkans are well known, Ambassador Kamarag said coldly, as the intellectual puppets of the Federation. Your vessel did destroy USS Grissom. Commander Krug did order the death of David Marcus, James Kirk's son. Do you deny these events? We deny nothing, Kamarag said. We have the right to preserve our species. Do you have the right to commit murder? Sarek mounted the dais. Mr. President, I have come to speak on behalf of the accused. This is a gross example of personal bias. James Kirk retrieved Spock, Sarek's son. Mr. Ambassador, the President said to Kamarag, with all respect, the Council will consider your testimony and that of Ambassador Sarek. Admiral Kirk has been charged with 9 violations of Starfleet regulations. There are higher laws than Starfleet regulations. Remember this well. There will be no peace as long as Kirk lives. Kamarag strode from the council chamber, leaving shocked silence behind him. The President turned to Sarek. Sarek of Vulcan, with all respect, he said, Admiral Kirk has declined to return to Earth. We ask you to return him and his officers to answer for their crimes. With respect to you, Mr. President, there is only one crime, denying James Kirk and his officers the honor they deserve. The President hesitated, as if hoping Sarek might relent. Cold and silent, Sarek met his gaze. When Vulcan's huge scarlet sun touched the horizon, Admiral James Kirk called his shipmates together. They gathered at the foot of Mount Seleia in the shadow of their captured Klingon ship. Dr. McCoy had renamed the ship HMS Bounty. Leonard McCoy claimed to have recovered from the ordeal that had saved Spock's life. But Jim had seen the troubled look, the fear that sometimes threatened to overwhelm the doctor. McCoy had held Spock's Katra, his living spirit, within his own mind until Tilar, the Vulcan adept, had reunited Spock's spirit with his body, regenerated and brought back from death by Genesis. The Genesis mission had changed McCoy. It had changed all of them. Commander Pavel Chekhov, the youngest of the group, made another in a series of nervous jokes about serving on ore carriers. Though Commander Uhura appeared as collected and cool as always, her smile was brittle. Montgomery Scott, the chief engineer, muttered that he would prefer an ore carrier to the Bounty. Serving on an ore carrier was perhaps the best they could hope for. Commander Hikaru Sulu ran toward the ship from the other side of the plane. Sweat plastered his straight black hair to his forehead. He had used Vulcan's heat and gravity to purify him to essentials, to temper him to steel. He looked as elemental as the blade of a saber. Jim waited another few minutes, but he saw no sign that the group would be completed. He turned to his friends. "The Bounty will soon be spaceworthy," he said, "and we are of no more use on Vulcan. If we return to Earth, we face court-martial. Have you made your decisions?" "Is nothing to decide, Admiral," Chekhov said. "We return with you." "How do you know I'm planning to return?" Jim said. Even Uhura looked shocked. "Admiral!" McCoy snorted. "Come on, Jim, enough of this. You're not about to become a colonist or a pirate, and we all know it. Let's vote." "Very well," Jim said. "All those in favor." Sulu raised his hand, the motion a challenge, not a gesture of defeat. The others followed his lead. Jim, too, raised his hand. "Thank you all," he said, his voice tight. "Mr. Scott, how soon can we get underway?" "Give me one more day, sir," Scott said. "A damage control is easy. Reading Klingon is hard." From a balcony carved into the living rock of Mount Selea, high above the landing field, Spock watched the small group of human beings who had returned him to Vulcan. Admiral James Kirk looked up, as if seeking Spock out. Spock raised his hood and let the white fabric settle around his face. The humans were none of his concern. He proceeded to the testing chamber, sat before the computer's triptych screen, and indicated his readiness. A computer flashed questions on the first screen and formulae on the second. The third presented a complex problem in three-dimensional chess. He spoke his answers to the questions on screen 1. On screen 3, he took the enemy knight with his queen. Check. The computer made no move. He typed the solution to the formulae on screen 2. The computer's rook captured Spock's queen. Spock captured the computer's rook. "Checkmate," Spock said. "Ready for final questions?" "I am ready," Spock said. "How do you feel?" Confused, Spock drew his eyebrows together in thought. Fabric rustled against stone. Amanda Grayson, Spock's mother, a human being from the planet Earth, joined him at the computer. "I do not understand the final question," Spock said. "It is irrelevant." "Spock, you are my son. The computer knows that. You may not understand feelings, but you have them. They will surface." "I cannot wait here to find them. I must go to Earth to offer testimony." "You do this for friendship?" "I do this because I was there." She touched his cheek. "Spock, does the good of the many outweigh the good of the one?" "I would accept that as an axiom," Spock replied. "Then you stand here alive because of a mistake," Amanda said. "A mistake made by your flawed, feeling human friends. When they returned to Genesis to retrieve your body and free your spirit, they risked their futures. They believed that the good of the one, you, was more important to them." Spock considered. "Humans make illogical decisions." "They do, indeed." Spock raised one eyebrow, trying to understand the incomprehensible motives of human beings.
I can comprehend the intricacies of molecular biology, the interweavings of physics and mathematics and cosmology, the subtleties of language, but I cannot comprehend what Amanda tries to explain to me. She wishes me to know joy and beauty, poetry and laughter. Hers is a single voice raised in gentle opposition to the scholars and Tilar and my father, to the voices of logic and reason. This multitude insists that I must not experience emotion. My mother tells me quietly that I shall. Amanda gave me an old, fragile book of Vulcan poetry. No one has written poetry on Vulcan in 1,000 years. I have read it, and since Amanda wished it, I read the lines out loud. But neither my intellect nor my spirit responds to the archaic rhythms. To a Vulcan, confusion is a state of mind to be avoided. Yet I am confused. If this is the result of a part of my heritage that is human, I will prefer to maintain the Vulcan ideal.
Admiral James Kirk took his place in the control chamber of the Bounty. Communications? Communication systems ready, Uhura replied. Communications officer ready as she'll ever be. Dr. McCoy? Sick bay's refitted, not that we'll need it, just to get us home. Navigation? Guidance is functional, Sulu said. The onboard computer will interface with Federation memory banks. Weapon system? Operational, Admiral, Chekhov said. And cloaking device is now available in all modes of flight. I'm impressed, Mr. Chekhov. Engine room. Report, Scotty.
We're ready, sir. I've converted the dilithium sequencer into something less primitive.
Prepare for departure, Jim said. The captain of the starship sat at Storm's Eye, responsible for everything, but with no physical tasks. He could think only of what he was taking his officers to face. He glanced around the bridge. To his astonishment, Spock appeared in the hatchway. The Vulcan wore a long white robe. Science officer reporting for duty. Request permission to accompany you to Earth, sir. Permission granted, of course, Spock. But what about your retraining? What about the elders? My retraining is as complete as study permits. The elders would prefer that I stay, but I have declined their invitation. Welcome aboard. Thank you, Admiral. Jim, Spock. Jim, remember? Jim wondered if the elders' program had reformed Spock as a perfect Vulcan without personality, character, or even the remnants of emotion to hold in check. It would be improper to refer to you as Jim while you are in command, Admiral. Spock hesitated and glanced down at himself. Also, I must apologize for my attire. He frowned slightly. I seem to have misplaced my uniform. McCoy appeared at Jim's elbow and gazed skeptically at Spock. You sure this is such a bright idea? What do you mean? It irritated Jim to have McCoy voice in such bald terms a question he had asked himself. I mean him, at his post, like nothing happened. I don't know if you've got the whole picture, but he isn't exactly working on all thrusters. It'll come back to him, Jim said. Are you sure? Jim said nothing. Across the bridge, Spock communed with his computer. That's what I thought, McCoy said. Mr. Sulu, Jim said abruptly. Take us home. Back on Earth, Chief Medical Officer Christine Chappell watched a display that ringed Starfleet Command's major mission room. An unidentified spacecraft, an unstoppable probe, plunged toward the solar system. It created a field of energy that wailed and cried through the speakers, as if pleading for, demanding an answer. And yet, it ignored all attempts at communication. On the screen, a Federation ship neared the probe. Helpless, Christine watched as a ship's signal died. The traveler called, but it no longer expected any reply. As it neared the insignificant blue planet, several small spaceborne nodes of power approached it. It drained them. In the silence, it sang its grief to space. This world, which had appeared so promising, had proven inhospitable. Its surface must be sterilized so that whatever had destroyed the planet's intelligence would itself be destroyed. Then the traveler could give the world new voices. The traveler fed power to an expanse of ocean. An enormous sea wave exploded into steam. The vapor collected into a cloud cover that rapidly thickened and spread. Across the surface of the earth, it began to rain. The Bounty sped through warp space. "Mr. Chekhov," Kirk said, "any sign of Federation escort?"
"No, sir," Chekhov said. "And no Federation vessel on assigned patrol."
"That's odd," Kirk said. "Uhura, anything new on those transmissions?"
"Nothing I can translate yet, Admiral. Whatever's transmitting this gibberish is orbiting the Earth."
Tokyo, cloud cover 95%. The spattering rain froze to sleet. Juneau, cloud cover 97%. Icy snow plummeted from the sky. Leningrad, cloud cover 100%. It was too cold to snow. The citizens, accustomed to their winters, were well prepared to survive till spring. But this time, spring would never come. "Admiral," Uhura exclaimed, "a Mayday, sir, from Earth." A blurry image of the President of the Federation Council suddenly sprang into focus, and the message came through with utter clarity.
"The probe has directed an immense power wave at our oceans. Cloud cover has enveloped our world. The temperature is dropping to a critical level. Starships are powerless against the probe. Communication is becoming impossible. Earth evacuation plans are impossible. The planet cannot survive. Save yourselves. Avoid the planet Earth. Avoid the probe that is destroying us. Farewell."
A great alien spacecraft replaced the image of the President. Its voice wailed with an eerie strangeness.
"It's nothing we can translate, sir,"
Uhura said. "Spock, what do you make of it?" Jim said. "Most unusual," Spock said. "An unknown form of energy. Great intelligence. Great power. I find it illogical that its intentions are hostile."
"Really?" McCoy said sarcastically. "You think this is its way of saying hi there to the people of Earth?"
"There are other intelligent life forms on Earth, Doctor. Only human arrogance would assume the message was meant for humanity."
"Spock," Jim said, "are you suggesting that this transmission is meant for a life form other than human beings?"
The transmission was directed at the Earth's oceans. Jim frowned, considering.
"Uhura, what would that sound like underwater?"
Uhura mutated the probe's signal. The wail changed to a tantalizingly familiar cry.
"Fascinating," Spock said.
"If my suspicion is correct, there can be no response to this message."
Huge, graceful, a creature moved through the ocean and across Spock's computer screen.
"The probe's transmissions resemble songs sung by the humpback whale," the Vulcan said. "Megaptera novangliae."
"Who would send a probe hundreds of light years to talk to a whale?" McCoy said.
"Whales evolved 10 millions of years earlier than humans," Spock replied. "But humans regard them as resources to be exploited. The humpback species became extinct in the 21st century. It is possible that an alien intelligence sent the probe to determine why they lost contact with the whales."
"Spock, couldn't we simulate the humpback's answer to this call?"
"We could replay the sounds, Admiral, but not the language. We would be responding at best in rote phrases, at worst in gibberish."
"That leaves us no choice," Kirk said. "We've got to destroy the probe before it destroys Earth."
"The attempt would be futile, Admiral," Spock said, "if Federation starships have been powerless."
"Isn't there any alternative?"
"We could attempt to find some humpback whales."
"You just said there aren't any except on the Earth of the past," McCoy said.
"Your memory is excellent, Doctor," Spock replied. "That is precisely what I said." The travelers' work enshrouded the blue planet. Great thunderstorms flooded the land or seared it with lightning, setting fires that added soot and ash and gases to the roiling clouds. Snow fell from pole to equator. Sarek had never observed such weather. Rain and sleet cracked the window and pooled on the floor. Lightning burst continuously, turning the night's darkness brighter than Earth's yellow day. As communications deteriorated, Starfleet headquarters pulled in a transmission from James Kirk. Sarek made out Kirk's wavering form and the vague silhouette behind him, unmistakably of a Vulcan, unmistakably Spock. Static muffled Kirk's words. He is coming to Earth, Sarek thought. All ships have been ordered away, but instead of obeying, he will come. He has been ordered to Earth, but instead of disobeying, he will come. Sarek knew that James Kirk was incapable of standing by while his home world died. The Klingon ship would face the probe and be destroyed. So too, Kirk and all his companions would die. Analysis, Kirk said. His image snapped into focus. Human beings can offer no proper response. The probe is attempting to contact an extinct species, the humpback whale. This is Captain Spock's determination. A bright stroke of pride touched Sarek's equanimity. Do you read me? Kirk said. His image began to fade. Starfleet, we are seeking humpback whales. We are going to attempt time travel. Spock is computing our trajectory. The power failed utterly. The groan of tortured glass and metal cut through the scream of the wind and the pounding of rain and waves. Good luck, Kirk, Sarek said. To you and to all who go with you. The windows imploded, spraying cold, sharp shards. Cries of fear and freezing needles of sleet and wind formed Sarek's last perception. The Bounty plunged toward the sun through bands of spectral color and back into time. As the ship skimmed the sun's corona, heat penetrated the seared hull and pooled in the control chamber. The Bounty trembled. Then, what flashed out of the star's gravity? A blue and white globe rotated lazily in space. Earth, Jim said. But when? Judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, Spock said, I believe we have arrived at the late 20th century. Well done, Spock. Sir, Uhura said, I've picked up a whale song from San Francisco. From the city. That doesn't make sense. Admiral, here, Mr. Spock. I need you in the engine room. Home in on the song, Uhura. Continue approach. Spock, come with me. In the engine room, Scott gazed glumly into the power chamber. Its dilithium crystals radiated the dimmest of multicolored lights. They're giving out, Scott said. Decrystallizing. How soon, Mr. Scott? Kirk said. 24 hours, give or take, staying cloaked. After that, Admiral, we'll be visible or dead in the water. I can't believe we've come this far, only to be stopped, Kirk said. Scotty, can't you recrystallize the dilithium? Nay, Scott said. 'Tis never done. The recrystallization equipment would be too dangerous to leave lying about. The inhabitants of the 20th century had a propensity for leaving dangerous equipment lying about, Spock said. Explain. If memory serves, Spock said, Earth still employs fission reactors. They produce photons of sufficient energy to recrystallize dilithium. We could build a device to collect those photons, theoretically. Where would we find these reactors, theoretically? Naval vessels used nuclear power. There is, in this time, a Navy base in the vicinity of San Francisco. As the Bounty proceeded towards San Francisco and the whale song, Jim outlined 3 tasks that had to be accomplished. Find the whales, convert the ship's cargo bay into a whale tank, and recrystallize the dilithium. We'll have to divide into teams, he said. But I want you all to be very careful. It's a historical fact that these people have not yet met an extraterrestrial. Only Spock, who often felt himself an alien even among his own people, found Admiral Kirk's comment unsurprising. He considered the problem, then retied his sash across his forehead. The headband served to hide his eyebrows, as well as the pointed tips of his ears.
I believe, he said, that most 20th century North Americans will now perceive me as foreign, but not extraterrestrial. Jim gave a sharp nod of approval. All right, let's do our job and get out of here. Our own world is waiting. The Bounty landed at Golden Gate Park. Jim led the way outside. After the ramp disappeared into the cloten field and the hatch closed, the ship was completely invisible. Uhura consulted her tricorder, and the shipmates set off across the meadow in the direction of the whales. Everybody, remember where we parked, Jim said. Jim and his shipmates entered the city. Ground cars and pedestrians crowded the streets and sidewalks. Jim's tension eased when even Spock received no more than second glances. At an intersection, a fellow pedestrian inserted metallic discs into a glass-fronted box, removed a stack of folded paper, and let the machine's spring door slam. Damn, Jim said. They're still using money. We're going to need some. He stared at a sign across the street. Antiques we buy and sell. Then he had an idea. You people wait here, he said, and spread out. You look like a cadet review. Jim headed toward the antique shop. A high shriek, an oily burn smell, a ground car's wheels spread black streaks on the gray street. The car jolted to a stop a hairbreadth away. Watch where you're going, you dumbass, the driver shouted. And a double dumbass on you, Jim yelled. The driver blew a deafening blast on his horn. The car accelerated with a squeal and the pungent odor of rubber. Jim hurried to the safety of the sidewalk. When Jim came out of the antique shop, he had traded his 18th century spectacles for a thin sheaf of paper money. Your spectacles, Spock said. Were they not a birthday present from Dr. McCoy? And they will be again, Spock, Jim said. That's the beauty of it. But, Admiral, Spock, I'm not in command of anything right now. You've got to get used to calling me Jim, at least while we're here. Calling me Admiral might draw attention. They rejoined their shipmates, crossing the street more carefully this time, and Jim parceled out the money. That's all there is, he said. So nobody splurge. Are we set? Then let's go. The team split up. Uhura and Chekhov were responsible for charging the photon collector that would recrystallize the dilithium. McCoy, Scott, and Sulu had the task of building a tank in the hold of the Bounty. As for Jim and Spock... Well, Spock, Jim said, thanks to your restored memory and a little bit of luck, we are now on the streets of San Francisco looking for a pair of humpback whales. How do you propose to solve this minor problem? Simple logic will suffice, Spock said. We need a map. That one should do. Spock puzzled over a map posted inside a glass-walled shelter. A large vehicle pulled up, belching oily smoke. Mr. Spock, Jim said, I think we'll find what we're looking for in Sausalito. Over Spock's shoulder, he read the advertisement on the vehicle's side. At the Cetacean Institute, the only two humpbacks in captivity, George and Gracie. How do you know this? Spock asked, more puzzled than before. Simple logic, Jim said. Admiral, may I ask you a question? Spock, damn it! Don't call me Admiral. Can't you remember? You used to call me Jim. Spock said nothing. What's your question? Jim said. Your use of language has altered since our arrival. It is currently laced with, shall I say, more colorful idioms. Double dumb ass on you, and so forth. You mean profanity? That's simply the way they talk here, Jim shrugged. Nobody pays any attention to you if you don't swear every other word. You'll find it in all the literature of the period. For example, Jim considered, the complete works of Jacqueline Suzanne, the novels of Harold Robbins. Ah, Spock said, the giants. They reached the Cetacean Institute. Inside, life-size replicas of whales swam and glided above a group of visitors. Good morning, a young woman faced the crowd. I'm your guide today. I'm Dr. Gillian Taylor, Assistant Director of the Cetacean Institute. The Institute is devoted exclusively to whales. The knowledge that we've collected here is minuscule compared to what we still have to learn, and what we think we know that's wrong.
The first common misconception is that whales are fish. They aren't. They're mammals like us. They're warm-blooded, they breathe air. Some are predators, but baleen whales, like George and Gracie, don't even have teeth. They strain seawater for plankton and shrimp. Unfortunately, their principal enemy is far more aggressive.
You mean human beings, Jim said.
To put it bluntly, with hand-thrown harpoons, people did plenty of damage. But that was nothing compared to what we've achieved in this century. We've hunted whales to the edge of extinction.
To drive another species to extinction, Spock said, is not logical.
Whoever said the human race was logical? Anger tinged her voice, but she repressed it. If you'll all follow me, I'll introduce you to the Institute's pride and joy.
She led the group to a curving wall of glass.
This is the perfect way to see George and Gracie, Gillian said. Underwater.
A whale swam toward them. Trailing bubbles, it glided past. Jim felt as if he were enclosed and the whales were free.
Their scientific name is Megaptera novagliae, Gillian said. We call them humpbacks because of their dorsal fin, but the Russians have the perfect name. They call them veselkite, merry whale.
It's perfect, Spock, Jim whispered. A male, a female, together in a contained space. We can beam them up together and consider ourselves damn lucky. Spock raised an eyebrow.
Aren't they beautiful? Gillian said. And they're extremely intelligent. Why shouldn't they be? They're swimming around with the largest brains on Earth. Despite all the things they're teaching us, though, we have to return George and Gracie to the open sea. For one thing, we don't have the money to feed them a couple of tons of shrimp a day, and it takes the whole morning to open all those little cans.
Jim wondered why everyone else laughed at her comment. How soon, he asked.
Soon, Gillian said. Whales are meant to be free.
Gillian touched the control.
Humpback whales are unique in a number of ways, she said. One is their song.
Whale song soared.
The recorded song of the humpback whale surrounded me. At the same time, the whales in the tank murmured to each other with curious creaks and squeaks and moans. And I remembered, many years ago, on Earth, I taught myself to swim. Once in the ocean, I swam too far. When I had nearly lost myself, I felt a creature. I expected death. Instead, I found a young intelligence. As in myths, which I had never given credence, a dolphin helped me toward shore. In our own time, the dolphins preserve the memories of the great whales, their vanished cousins. They remember the songs of the humpbacks. They sing them to each other. They hold themselves aloof from humans, and who can blame them? But I am not a human being, not entirely. The dolphin sang to me. Humans abused cetaceans for many centuries. Will we be acting in the same way if we take these two humpbacks from their time to ours? Will the whales believe they are being kidnapped? If we take them against their will, might our actions not defeat our own purpose? If two beings who have been wronged answer the probe, it may respond with more and wider aggression. I could imagine only one solution to the ethical dilemma: communication. Consequently, I left the crowd and made my way to the deck around the whale tank. I dove into the water. The whales engulfed me with their sounds. The vibrations traveled through the water and through my body. I could both feel and hear them. The whales turned toward me, and the inquiring sounds intensified. One whale swam beneath me and breathed out bubbles that rose around me and brushed my skin. She turned and ascended and hovered before me. Her great eye peered directly into my face. The warmth of her body radiated through the frigid water. I reached toward her, moving slowly so she could glide away if she chose. She remained motionless. I prepared myself to withstand the assault of mind-melding. I touched the whale. The peace of her thoughts immersed me, incredibly powerful, delicate as gossamer. The whale questioned, and I answered.
Gillian let the audience listen to the whale song. The song changes every year, but we still don't know what purpose it serves. One of the whales glided past the observation window, drawing Spock along with it. Jim smothered a gasp of astonishment.
Maybe the whale is singing to the man,
said a spectator. Jim flinched. Gillian turned.
What the hell?
Excuse me. Wait right here. Ignoring her order, Jim rushed right after her. When Spock climbed from the tank, Gillian Taylor was waiting for him.
Who the hell are you? She shouted. What were you doing in there?
Water splashed and dripped around his feet. He straightened his headband and shrugged into his robe. I was attempting to communicate, he replied.
Communicate? Communicate what? What do you think you are, some kind of Zen ethologist? Why does every bozo who comes down the damn pike think they have a direct line to whale speak?
I have no interest in damned pikes, Spock said. Only in whales.
I've been studying whales for 10 years, and I can't communicate with them. What makes you think you can come along and... Never mind. You have no right to be here.
Come on, fella, Jim snapped, pretending to be on Gillian's side. Speak up. Of course, Spock took him literally. Admiral, if we were to assume these whales are ours to do with as we please, we would be as guilty as those who caused their extinction.
Extinction?
Gillian said.
Okay. I want you guys out of here, right now.
In short order, Jim and Spock found themselves escorted politely but firmly from the Cetacean Institute. They trudged along the dusty road.
Spock, what the hell possessed you to dive in with the whales?
It seemed the hell like the logical thing to do, the Vulcan replied. Listen, Spock, Jim said. Yes, Admiral. About those colorful idioms we discussed, I don't think you should try to use them. Why not? Spock said. For one thing, you haven't quite got the hang of it. The hell I haven't, Spock said. All right, never mind that. You mind-melded with the whales, obviously. What did you learn? They are very unhappy about the way their species has been treated by humanity. They have a right to be, Jim said. Is there any chance they'll help us? I believe I was successful, Spock said, in communicating our intentions. With that, he fell silent. I see, Jim said. Gillian left the Institute, driving too fast. She sped past two pedestrians. When she saw who they were, she slammed on her brakes.
Well, she said when they reached her, if it isn't Robin Hood and Friar Tuck.
I'm afraid you have us confused with someone else, said the one in the maroon jacket. My name is Kirk, and this is Spock.
What was he doing back at the Institute?
Nothing, Kirk said. He's harmless. Look, back in the 60s, well, he did too much LDS.
LDS?
He's not the only one who did too much something, Gillian thought.
Let me give you a lift, she said.
Both men looked at her doubtfully.
I have a notorious weakness for hard luck cases.
Gillian smiled ruefully. That's why I work with whales. The two men got in and rode along in silence for a while.
So, Gillian said to Spock, you were at Berkeley.
I was not, Spock said. Memory problems, too, Kirk said.
Uh-huh, she said skeptically. What about you? Where are you from?
I'm from Iowa.
Ah, a landlubber.
Not exactly.
Can I ask
you something? Kirk said. She shrugged.
Go ahead.
What's going to happen when you release the whales? Gillian clenched her hand on the wheel. They're going to have to take their chances. Take their chances? They'll be at risk from whale hunters, same as the rest of the humpbacks. She frowned at Spock. What did you mean when you said all that stuff back at the Institute about extinction?
I meant, Kirk interrupted Spock. He meant, Jillian interrupted Kirk. He said, Admiral, if we were to assume these whales are ours to do with as we please, we would be as guilty as those who caused, past tense, their extinction. She waited. Are you sure, Spock said to Kirk, that it is not time for a colorful idiom?